Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Build or Break, an Age of Sigmar themed army idea video. This time we're talking about Sigmar's Crusade, an order army made out of factions from Cities of Sigmar and Stormcast Eternals. So the idea being, if Sigmar sent out a human crusade of guys from Azerheim or from Azir, what would that army look like? How do you build it? How do you make it look pretty cool? Things like that. So just like last time, some conversion rules, trying to keep WYSIWYG, so as much as possible what you see is what you get, especially for weapons, so it's easy to distinguish on the table. Try and keep it the GW part so I can play it at a GW event if I want to, and then easily recognizable without long explanation. This goes back to WYSIWYG, wanting to make these models easy to identify on the table so people aren't trying to figure out, now which one of these were the handgunners, what was the War Altar or the Hurricanum during the game, things like that. So as usual, starting off with some inspiration, this is all art from GW Official. I love the image on the right, probably my favorite piece of artwork they've made for Age of Sigmar. It's got Celestant Prime there, it's got some flying Stormcast Eternals behind them coming through a realm gate. You can see what looks like two cherubs carrying, I don't know, an icon or something over to the left, and then it's got these guys down the front, whether they're Stormcast or human guys, well armored. They look pretty sweet, taking out some demons of corn, but in front of that realm gate. I like it. These other two pictures, one is what looks like some Stormcast Eternals with some flagellants out in front, going off and kicking butt in a realm of fire there, and ashy. And then we've got the Anvil of Apotheosis, looking like they're reforging the Stormcast, maybe a Knight of Zeros or a Knight Venerator. And then up for debate where these guys in front are Stormcast or humans. I think they're kind of Stormcast. Why would humans be at the Anvil? But that Gryph-hound looks awfully big for them to be, giant humans as well, or giant-sized human type people. So maybe they are actually just regular people. Anyway, some good kind of mood art, mood board things to start us off. The next bit of inspiration comes from old Warhammer Fantasy art. We've got Battle Pilgrims, a Grail Reliquary. From Bretonnia, we've got a Warrior Priest from probably the MMO. We've got some old flagellant art in the top, and then a Warrior Priest holding a Beastman head over on your left. So some very crusadery, in the name of Karl Franz in this case, name of the Empire, name of the lady, but how you replicate this kind of aesthetic and this feel going into Age of Sigmar, right? So the last bit of inspiration is Chris Peach's, I think it's Army of Hallowheart, that it's a army on display on GW Warhammer community website. If you look at their armies on display, you can find this thing. Love some of the Stormcast bits he's using here in the color scheme. That Demigryph rider in the middle in your top right has that Stormcast helmet, or at least the kind of halo effect. These wizards are next or around this war altar down here. In your bottom right have some Stormcast weapons and shields. Pretty good kit bashes going on there. And then in the main picture, I love the Greatswords with the hoods. Those look pretty sweet to me. Handgunners in the back. Some other kit bashes going on. One or two Stormcasts, so nothing crazy, but enough to show that they're connected to the Stormcast and the Sigmar. I love the idea of having like maybe 3-5 Stormcast in your army, so show that some reinforcements have been coming down from Azir, but also showing that they're really rare. And I like the idea of the Mortal Realms, or Stormcasts aren't everywhere. It's rare to see one, so having a couple of these guys in the army means it's blessed by Sigmar. Not needing a whole legion of them, because not everybody's going to see a legion of Stormcast Liberators walking around or what have you. So I've tried to combine, since the last episode, some of these army building and unit ideas together, so there's less images to go through. But I think the base of this army has to be flagellants, right? Your holy warriors for Sigmar going out on a crusade, trying to cleanse the land of demons or the rot or the undead or the unfaithful, whatever it may be. These guys are the fanatics, the commoners that exist in the realms and probably outside the walls of Azir in the little shanty towns. You've got your original models down there on the bottom left. You can still buy those. And then over on the right, you've got some pictures of my flagellants I've got 40 of these guys painted up. Really simple paint scheme, not really any highlights to them. I've got a warrior priest with them, Can't really use him anymore, so he's just more there for the fun of the picture. But I think 40 is a pretty good number. I probably won't use that many, probably 30, but it means I've got some extras if I need them. The next part would be a general for these Freeguild folks. So again, you've got your Freeguild model on your left here. Still can't stand this guy. He looks so silly and ungenerally to me. Who is he commanding with that sword? He's just like, I'm going to stab somebody. So for me, I think building this general over on your right really works for me. It's a Freeguild Greatsword body with some arms from somewhere. He's got maybe a flagellant head and a big hammer on him. Really like this idea. Weapon blessed by Sigmar from Azir, maybe forged in Azir, given to him by a Stormcast to lead this holy crusade going out. I think it matches pretty well for WYSIWYG. You've got a big two-handed weapon. He's actually pointing like, hey, go over there and do this thing where this other guy's not. Maybe he needs a cape, but I'm probably going to leave that off of him. The next component I thought would be pretty neat for this army with some ranged options, and so you get your your Freeguild crossbowmen or handgunners. I thought crossbows would be good. Try to stay away from black powder in this army. I have a Cogfort army idea floating around I need to work on. It's all black powder, so having something that's non-black powder, maybe the crossbows are more reliable, easier to manufacture. But I don't like the Freeguild models. They look like kind of pirates to me, or barefoot, bad hats, things like that. So I'll save them for that sort of project. But I thought using some Eternal Guard bodies or Deepwood Ranger bodies from the old Wanderers collection and putting those crossbows from the Freeguild on them would be pretty cool. So I've got a couple crossbows. I've got 10 of these Eternal Guard. I've been kit bashing them a little bit. I think I'll probably try and do non-hooded as much as I can, but I don't think I have enough heads for that to have kind of bald, unhooded guys. So I'll probably end up doing a mix of the two. Looking for about probably 20 of these guys to fill out the army. But I like how the Eternal Guard uniform is kind of like a standard style. They're probably well trained, better than the Flagellants. So they've kind of got their skills leveled up a little bit. The next unit I want to make sure I have in there are some Greatswords. To me, these are really kind of the elite warriors of a human army in the Age of Sigmar. And so in this case, they're going to be, these holy warriors, maybe kind of warrior monk type things. Maybe they've been trained by a Stormcast a little bit. They're kind of reserved. They're well armed. They have a standard armor and uniform. So there's not going to be too many of them in the army. Probably just going to build 10. But you can't really see from this picture over here on the right where I've started building some, but they've got the big Liberator two-handed swords. So it gives them a sense of being blessed by the forges of Azerheim and given a special kind of weapon. Maybe have a battalion of +1 rend or something like that. And the next big component I think needs to be some sort of war wagon. Back when Devoted Sigmar was still a faction, I was all into making 2 war altars, 80 flagellants, and a little Stormcast Crusader army. So this is kind of take 2 on that component. I think the war altar is a great model, but I think it needs to be changed a little bit to be used in the current army. So I think the closest thing that makes sense is a Huracanum. You put the battle mage on it, you get this giant comet crashing down. It kind of gives some area buffs like the war altar did, but for all Freeguild units, which is nice. Or maybe Free Cities units, I'll have to check. And so what I've done is I've taken the horses off, I've put some Gryph-hounds on it, again, a gift from Azir, from whoever their Stormcast beneficiary is, or maybe a local town council or something, Free City Council, something like that. But kit bashed a little bit of the guy up on top, so he doesn't have the staff, he doesn't look like Volkmar the Grim or Arc Collector, maybe a little bit more like a wizard. And I'm thinking of putting either a Garden of Moor statue, a Dominion of Sigmar statue, or a Imperial Sector Sanctus statue from the 40k range back there, showing these guys are kind of preaching the word of Sigmar, and his gaze is going wherever the army's going. But running it as a Huracanum, probably the biggest counts as, not exactly WYSIWYG, there's not going to be these planets or things. Maybe if I can find the bits, I'll put those planets around the statue. That might be an idea, but I probably won't buy another kit just for those. So those are kind of the 4 basic components of this idea of build to break it. I think those are pretty easy, so far I think it's a build. It's not broken, the idea at least. The next component would be some sort of Stormcast component. I've already said it needs to be small. Like, let's do 5 models, maybe, no more than 10, right? Maybe they don't care for the humans. Maybe they just have some shared goals with the humans. So maybe it's a errant quester or a knight quester, trying to go out and accomplish the same sort of thing. I personally like having a knight incantor. I love the Everblaze comet, just the idea of this guy kind of pulling it out of the sky, especially with this pose. If you can't find that guy, go buy the $8 starting magazine. He comes with that. It's the cheapest character model you'll ever find. So I think I'm going to have to include him, maybe one of the Questor heroes. And if I need a unit, maybe do Sequitors. They're kind of like these holy warriors, kind of matches the Crusader theme. Maybe they're the bodyguard or the retinue or the honor guard of whatever hero models I have. The other idea I had was Long Strike or Hurricane Crossbow Vanguard Raptors, and this is because I really want to put some Cherubs in this army. Since Sisters of Battle came out, I think having some Cherubs around either as Aether Wings or something would be great. Aether Wings is the closest thing I've found to count as, so kind of need the Raptors to synergize, right? And then lastly, I think the Wrath of Sigmar, as I've called this really bad paint .net mashup here, would be awesome to see on the table. I don't know if the scale's right. I probably need to figure that out before I move ahead with this, but I'm not sure what he would count as, but maybe an Avatar Arcane, even though I don't have any Daughters of Cain in it. But I think adding that statue to the Siskel from the Slanesh, the guy with the demon head on his back, would be a pretty sweet thing to see on the table if it would work. Just cut that banner off a little bit, maybe repose his arms so they're not so stiff. Could even be like an automaton, but I think that'd be really cool to see. Lastly, some cherubs, like I said, and those would go with these Vanguard Raptors and count as Aether Wings. Just thematically, they'd mesh well with the rules. If I don't do Vanguard Raptors, maybe I'll still do Aether Wings, rolling 50 points. Anyway, they would be on the display board for this army. Lastly, a picture on your bottom right, I've got these old Liberators builds. I cut the adornments off their heads so they looked a little bit more vicious and kind of cruel and inhuman in my eyes, and I think that would fit well with this crusade. Like, there's these liberators in these, in this large human army, and there's a few of them, and the humans, even, the Greatswords are terrified of them, but they allow them to be there because who are they to say no and be, they help them out in a pinch. But there's my Knight Incantor. I just need to get them painted up as well. So here the cherub models, find these on GW website. They're in a bunch of different Sister of Battle kits, the infantry kits, the tank kits, the big, I forget what it's called, but kind of display kit with the coffin in it. Just need 3 of these guys, find them off of eBay or something, but take off the kind of ammo carriers or whatever those are and put some of the flagellant flails that they're holding, so they're like dragging these things along, maybe whacking people with them, kind of like the closest model with the little monocle. The biggest one with the monocle there shows. I think it'd be really cool to show in this army. Paint them all gold or whatever color. They don't need to be actually human. They could be, celestial energy. I think that'd be really neat to have and carry the theme really, really well. Finally, I want to have some objective markers. So I think it'd be great to say, hey, these guys are on this crusade. They fought these rogue psykers, these chaos guys, chaos wizards. They've captured them. Maybe the Knight Incantors keeping them under wraps, and maybe I take their arms off and put the flagellant wooden stock bit in on their arms, so it looks like they're in captivity and they're just floating along in this army. And they're, we're taking them back to Azir or to a free city, and they're going to stand trial or what have you, burn them at the stake. So I think that'd be cool. I also think this little reliquary standard from the Sister of Battle kit would be a great objective, like going out to reclaim some things from the Age of Myth or from the fallen Atlantic Empire or something like that. And if I needed another one, I have this, you could use a subjective marker from the actual objective kit with this grave, which I think is neat. So here's the current status of the army. I've got everything you see up there. I've got the Freeguild General, the Flagellants, the Greatswords. I've got 5 crossbows I can build. I need 5 more of the weapons. I have 2 War Altars. I'll probably only run 1. I have the Knight Incantor as well. So I've got a pretty decent start on this army. I've also got the biggest unit already painted, which is a great plus. And so I thought that I didn't want really need mounted units, and then I started thinking about my next steps. And so I really think some Demigryph Knights would carry this theme, especially if I want to go low Stormcast. It helps me get some maneuverability, some speed in this army. Um, I don't like the Demigryph models that much. They're a little static for now. I think maybe they'd be great as statues, but I need the riders, or I need Dark Rider bodies. And putting those on Vanguard or Vanguard Paladors, I believe is what they're called, and their Griff Charger mounts would look incredible. So Paint Dot netted it up on the right hand corner. Hopefully I got the scale pretty close, but the center image, top image there is from Tales of Instahammer off of Facebook, and somebody put a Chaos Marauder on one with a skink or a Saurus shield. And I think the legs are a little short, but for the most part, I think that scale is okay. So if I could get some Demigryph riders, and especially after sword, they have another pose where these weapons are down, like in a charge formation. I just think the movement on those would really bring this army to life. I've got a lot of small infantry models, so something kind of mid-sized that breaks up the small models would look good as well. So some next steps, I need to build or buy 15 more crossbow guys. That's the Eternal Guard bodies, the crossbow arms and weapons. And then I need to get the Rogue or Chaos Psykers from Blackstone Fortress. Sec orders are long strikes. I'm still up in the air about this. I need something to fill a few points. I'll talk about the army list building. Need some statue bits. Need the Everblaze Comet, the Cherubs, and some Demigryphs, whether that's just the Demigryphs or both of these kits. So a number of small things to pull together, but nothing too much. Probably easier than that Cogfort army I'm still working on. Lastly, maybe a General on Griffin, depending if I want to go 2,000 points or not. I think with my current setup, it's about 1,100 points with what I have, so I could easily get to 15. So a section I added was making sure I have a playable list. So I built two different lists. The one on the left was the first one I built. It's okay. I only had two generals. I had a Freeguild General on foot, or I should say three leaders. Freeguild General on foot, Celestial Hurricanum with Battle Mage on it, and I had an Assassin and a Knight Incantor. And I was like, all right, I got three heroes. That's not enough for a real army or a real list competitive of any sort. So then I felt like, okay, there's not a lot in the Cities of Sigmar book I can use, and I'm using all of my ally points for these Vanguard Raptors and these Aether Wings. So I added an Assassin, probably would use an old Witch Hunter model I have as that, and I would then use this another Freeguild General on foot. But that left me with the Demigryph Knights, 30 Flagellants, 10 Greatswords, 20 Crossbows, 30 Aether Wings, 3 Vanguard Raptors with either sword and bow would be okay. Another Celestial Hurricanum, and then the Everblaze Comet. So it gets me close to 2,000. Not my favorite. I like the range. I like the up-close units as well, but the heroes are not my favorite, or the leaders aren't my favorite. So the second list I built is like, okay, what works better than that? Hurricanum again, Freeguild General on foot. I added a General on Griffin, and then 3 Stormcast allies. So a Knight Incantor for the Everblaze Comet and to control the Rogue Psykers. Errant Quester, I have to kit bash that since I live across the pond from Warhammer World. And then a Knight Azeros as well. And the Azeros flies, so he helps the Freeguild General on Griffin not be totally alone. He gives +1 to hit for anything targeted within 10 inches of him, so it helps the crossbows. It helped the General, helped the Demigryph Knights if they can get there. And then my units are all just Free Cities units, the same as the other one. This is okay. I'm still kind of thinking about that Freeguild General on Griffin. Like, is he too much for this army? Does he make the theme go away because he's maybe too important or too regal or something like that? So I'm not quite sure how to tackle that. This is 1,960 points. We've used all my Stormcast ally points. This is what makes me think maybe I'll just do 1,500. If I cut out that Freeguild General on Griffin, that's down to 1,640. If I take out the Azeros, that's 1,540. So maybe I'll just do 1,540 points and call it a day. I could also make the Huracan just a regular one, take 60 points off of that as well if I needed to for some sort of matched event. So that brings me to build it or break it. I think it's pretty buildable. I've done a lot of that work. It's not a break the bank. It's more expensive than just a straight up army, but not a whole lot. So I think that's something I'll probably continue to do. Lastly, I wanted to finish with who in the community is working on similar style things or giving me inspiration. Chris Peach, I talked about his stuff, and the inspiration is probably the biggest one. Here's his Twitter handle. So if you know someone else that has something that's similar to this, let me know. I'd be glad to take a look at it and see if I can get any ideas or promote their stuff in any way. So as always, thanks for listening, and see you next time.